Godforge gang, how are we feeling? My name is Emma, and this is going to be my very belated response to the fact that Godforge is in fact not coming in the way that we were expecting when we were expecting it. I know this is a very late response to the no longer very recent news that Godforge is being delayed. I've been ill the last week and I didn't have a voice to speak, but maybe it's a good thing that we've had a little bit of time to digest, think about how we're feeling and how we're moving forward. So even if it's late, I just wanted to jump in and share my thoughts on the recent news. I assume that anyone who's watching this video has either watched Simon's video themselves or kind of seen the news relayed, so I'm not going to go into many details about what was said in that video. I will link it below in case you have lived under a rock and you want to check it out. But the very brief summary is that we're not getting early access in the next couple of months like we were hoping. We're instead getting a beta that is very likely to come on the 19th of May. And then early access is delayed until the end of the year, Q4 most specifically, but that is October to December. Obviously, a lot of people have been very disappointed, to the point of some people even being quite angry. When the news dropped, I was at home ill in bed and I was just watching the Godforge General Discord for like couple of hours, and there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of sentiment along the lines of, oh, I give up, I'm done with Godforge, I can't do this anymore, I knew it was gonna fail, you might as well just pack it up and cut your losses now. A lot of mean-spirited and not very nice sentiments. Well, let's just say, like, I can understand disappointment, but when it kind of becomes vicious and also very like entitled, like I'm owed this game, I need this game, there's other things you can do. And if you are genuinely interested in playing this game, then surely you want what's best for the game. Like, I mean, I know it feels like it sometimes, but Godforge is not a life necessity and we will all survive. And also, like, obviously I have never made a multi-million investment game, but as someone who is a creative and who work on creative projects, I really understand that feeling of working something that you are so like personally invested in and very passionate about. And I understand that feeling of sometimes things don't work out the way you expect it to. Sometimes you need to start over. Sometimes you need to change things. Sometimes you just can't hit a deadline. As someone who knows what it's like to care deeply about a creative endeavor, whatever that might be, I do find it easy to have compassion and understanding for the people at Godforge and what they're doing. There's a lot of people's livelihood riding on this game. There's investor money. There's so many things to consider. They want to make good money. I understand how hard for them it must be to have made this decision because you just want it to come out as soon as possible, but you also need to do the product justice. I feel like anyone who's getting angry or act like they're entitled to the game, again, I'm not making any assumptions here. Maybe you're just perfect and you've never had a delay in your life. But I feel like anyone who is getting angry probably just doesn't understand what it's like to be heavily invested and to care so much about a creative endeavor that you're working on. But yeah, I do want to share my specific point of view on this because I feel like it might differ from a lot of the other people, especially people who are very engaged in the community and people who are making content, because most people that I've seen at least are people who have been in this community for a long time, like since before the alphas, have played the alphas. But that's not me. I came in to this community late, and this is something that I always feel a little bit self-conscious is not quite the right word, but I feel aware of the fact that I do lack experience that other people have because I came in late. I came into the Godforge community through the minigame. So I had been watching Godforge from the sideline, like quite invested and excited for the game, watching a lot of the videos that Fateless put out. But I wasn't aware of how big the community was. I wasn't aware of how active the Discord was. I knew of the alphas, but I made a decision not to play because I was busy. I was playing other games and I kind of just kept an eye on Godforge and I thought I'll get in there when it matters, essentially. And then the minigame came out and I was like, all right, this is it. Okay, it's happening. Let's get in there. So from that point of view, I can really understand, especially people who might not have been super engaged with Godforge, who came in because they were like, oh, it's coming now. I want to be ready when it's come. So I'm going to grind this mini game for a couple of months and be ready. And if we hadn't had the promise of early access, I probably wouldn't have gotten in at the point that I did. Other people might not have gotten in. So a lot of those people who are in the same boat as me, I think might feel a sense of, oh, so I came into this, I did all this grind, and now it's not coming. If there hadn't been a promise of early access, and if there hadn't been a mini game, I would still be focusing on other things. I can understand the feeling of, oh, that's 2 months of my life where I spent a lot of time every day looking at this, researching this, trying to make decisions in the mini game that I wouldn't have spent if I knew the early access wasn't coming. So I do feel like there is probably a big group of people who isn't as maybe vocal in the community or in the Discord, who came in just to grind a mini game just because early access was coming, and now feel like, oh, but I've done all this work because I was expecting this to come, and now it's not coming. I know that all that work that went into the mini game is not wasted, because you still get that legendary and you'll get it later. I feel like there might be a sense of, oh, but you pulled me out of whatever I was doing before. I was getting excited. I was getting ready. I could have just been minding my own business, not worrying about Godforge this whole time. And I could have done all of this later when it actually matters. Because especially if you're not super embedded in the community and you're not going to spend the next 6 months obsessing over Godforge, you've read up on kits, you've learned things about the heroes, you've, made decisions in the mini game, and 6 months down the line, unless you're engaging with that material this whole time, you're going to have forgotten all of this, and you're kind of going to need to do it again. So I can understand this sense of, oh, it feels like this time has been taken from me, because now all this knowledge is just going to slowly seep out of my brain, and we're going to have to do this all over again when the game comes out. Obviously, we do have the beta coming, but I have also seen a lot of people kind of comment that, oh, I'm not going to play the beta, I'm not interested in a wipe. And I do understand that point of view, because initially that was my perspective as well, because I didn't want to play a wipe. I wanted to play the game when I can keep my progress. That's why I didn't play the alphas despite being aware of them. But yeah, had I heard about the beta without doing the minigame first, without getting kind of a little bit deeper into this community, I might have not played it either. I might have just said to myself, oh, I'll wait for the real thing, so to say. But even though, I will say, my first feeling when I heard the news was disappointment, because I was excited to play the game and I was excited to play my real long-time account and start making progress. But at the same time, if I'm taking a step back and looking at it a little bit more long-term, obviously I believe that the choices that they have made is in the best interest of the game to make the best product possible. I know that they haven't made this decision lightly. So in that sense, obviously, I want the game to be good. I'm sure that this is the right decision. If I allow myself to speak from a purely selfish point of view for a few moments, as someone who has decided to start making content on this game, I am quite grateful for the chance of a trial run, so to say, because when the game comes out and when the audience for Godforge start to grow, obviously I want to make the best content possible, and a bit of extra time just gives me time to get better at making videos. It gives me time to kind of practice making gameplay content. I wasn't around to make videos on the alphas. The beta gives me a chance to just get better at making videos. It will give me a chance to also properly learn about the heroes and be able to put out some guides and tier lists and all that good stuff that a lot of people are making right now, but I don't feel like I'm in a place to make that kind of content because I haven't played the game yet. And I'm very much a visual learner. I can read the kits all day. I've tried to read the kits, but without being able to feel it and use it and practice, the information goes straight in and straight out. Obviously, I play Raid and I know all the kits in Raid, but that's because, I have the heroes and I play with them and I understand how it works. Or if I don't have the hero, I face that hero and I see what they're doing to me. So you learn the kits organically, and that's what I'm going to have to do with Godforge. I can't sit and read kits and really get an understanding. So yeah, like from a purely selfish point of view, like having the beta gives me practice time, and it gives me 6 months to become the best content creator that I can be, so that when the game starts to reach a bigger audience, my content can be in a place where, you know, I'm happy for people to find it and I'm proud of what's on my channel. From that point of view, I'm very happy to be playing the beta. I'm sad that I might pull heroes that I really love. That's going to go straight in the bin at the end of it. In the long term, I think it's best for the game. It's obviously good for me, but that is only because I have decided to be a content creator. So I know that that's not a point of view that everyone is going to share. Another reason why I just don't mind waiting is I'm at a point now where this isn't just a game, it's also a community, because since I started making content, I've talked to lots of people, I've got to know some of the other content creators. I joined a very lovely pantheon, specifically the book club pantheon run by Ragewood. It's a really lovely little community, and you know, I'm making friends, I'm talking to people about other things other than Godforge. It's not just about the game anymore. Even if we don't have the game for another 6 months, I'm just happy to hang out. So the last thing I want to touch on as a big minigame enjoyer is whether I think the minigame should return. So I've seen mixed opinions on this. One big one being, oh, it would take dev time away from the actual game, which of course is a consideration to make. But I am strongly of the opinion that the minigame should return. Partly because it's what pulled me in, and I think in the next few months, obviously we're going to go into beta. Lots of people are going to be making content on the beta, which might pull more people in the community. And I think anyone who finds out about the game and gets excited about the game in the next 6 months or however long we are waiting, do also deserve to have that chance to build a good start to the game. I mean, obviously the whole point is to get as many people playing Godforge as possible. There's big potential for the game to reach new people, especially as we all start making beta content and people will see a more polished version of the game than what was shown previously. Because what we've seen lately, like the game is looking so much better, it's looking so polished. The minigame is such a good way to pull people in who might know a little bit about the game but not much, because it's not just that, oh, here's a promo code that gives you a legendary. It's forcing you to make a choice, which also then means you need to do research, and then you need to look at the kits, you need to look at the heroes. And for me, it created so much excitement. And I think it would be a shame to not give that same chance to anyone new who discovers the game. And I think it could also help ignite excitement again for people who played the minigame the first time. There's lots of people who still didn't get their number one top pick. Like, one comparison that I want to make here is that something that is new and novel is always gonna feel more exciting than something that you've been sitting on for a while. So as someone who reads a lot of book, a little comparison that I would make is there's books that's been on my to read list for like 3 years and I really want to read them, but there's something about a book that you have been looking at for years that's like almost lost its novelty. Like, I'll watch an Instagram reel where someone recommends a book I've never heard about, and if I'm choosing between the book I just heard about or the book that I've been wanting to read for 3 years, I'm almost always picking the one that I just heard about, because there's a novelty and like an excitement to something that you've only just recently found out about or engaged with. And I think the heroes that we have on our minigame now, in 6 months' times, we've been sitting on that hero for a while and it might lose that initial spark of excitement. But if we have a chance to refresh our choices and we pull something new, it has that sense of newness and novelty, which will make you more excited to play with them, I think. Anyway, I feel like this video has been a little bit of an incoherent ramble, so we're going to end it here. I just wanted to share my thoughts. I know my thoughts are going to be a little bit different from the people who've been in this community from the start. Anyway, thanks for watching, take care, and see you soon.